See, Mr. Stickle Fritz here. It's no argument Mike McDaniel is one of the best play callers in the league. How confident you in your DC's play calling both in week one going forward?
Very.
So yeah, I agree, Josh. I'm
like
personally, and I'm gonna throw this to you guys because
Mhm.
I thought Anthony Weaver had a super strong
Oh,
debut with the Miami
awesome.
Dolphins.
Awesome.
It didn't start out great. The Jaguars were able to drive the ball down the field, get chunk plays against us. Um, the touchdown that Trevor Lawrence threw in the back of the end zone on that play, that ball was just a beautifully thrown football.
It was a
three
beautiful.
Dolphins there. It was
But I will say this: I rewatched the film. Right, I studied the game, and that was a Jordan Poyer mistake, not a Ramsey mistake. Jordan Poyer took a wrong angle, stopped running, and then tried to catch up on his player because he was he was responsible for the back zone of that defense. And Ramsey backtracked with his player, noticed it, peeled off to try to make a play. And Anthony, I think I'm pretty sure you remember, we were both like, oh, I can't believe Ramsey gave that up. He got toasted. I looked back at the film ready to roast him on this show. That was a Poyer thing, and Poyer had a horrible game.
Yeah, he did. Yeah. That's one of those. We're talking. We're going to give out game balls a little bit later on in the game in the show.
What else are we giving out?
What's that?
What else are we giving out?
We are giving. Go ahead, tell the people, Josh.
We're giving out game balls for those that we thought deserve them. We're giving out jock straps to those that we thought that deserve it.
Yes. And Jordan Poyer is a definite contender for a jock strap award.
Oh yes.
Let's get back to what Mr. Snickle Fritz asked us. Love the username. Awesome. I think Anthony Weaver had a super strong debut. The Jaguars were able to move the ball in the first half against the Dolphins, but as the game wore on, the yards were harder and harder to come by for the Jaguars, and that's a testament to Anthony Weaver, in my opinion. Steve, what do you think about that?
Yeah, I think that Anthony Weaver definitely had a good game. He had a great second half, but we're also overshadowing the fact that Lawrence missed a couple, if not one, two, definitely one really big pass in the fourth quarter that could have put more points on the board for Jacksonville. He missed Christian Kirk on third down inside the 50-yard line right after that lousy 42-yard field goal that we attempted.
Yeah.
The very next drive. Yeah, the very next drive. I mean, Lawrence essentially gave us the ball right back, and within 10 yards of his scoring distance. Because if you remember, their kicker blasted one through the uprights just before halftime. And wherever they had that red line marked, he had like 10 more yards to go. He hit the back of that net easy. So
was the reception the one on Cater?
Yes.
Yeah, Cater.
Yeah.
But Kirk was like our best defensive player for a few of those.
Yeah,
but at the same time, I'm not trying to take anything away from our defensive coordinator. I mean, he had pressure on Lawrence at all times. He had different types of man coverages and zone coverages. He kept mixing that up. He had linebackers blitzing. He had linebackers covering. He had sometimes 3-man down. Sometimes he had 4 hands in the dirt. And I like when there's more hands in the dirt. I've said that before. And when that happened, you saw Trevor kind of feeling the pressure even a little bit more. And he'd bring a blitzer from a corner. He was bringing Calais Campbell a lot more than anything. Well, he was getting in there a lot more than anything. But I think that there was a lot of better play from certain players, and I think the scheme's going to come together a lot more anyway. But I think certain players really held it together for our defensive core. But I do think it's going to be a lot more cohesive as the season goes on. I like the way he held his defense together.
Yeah, I like the fact go ahead, Josh.
He ran 11 different variations in week 1 of defensive formations. 11.
Yeah. Like I said, I had to watch this thing on a phone, but I was noticing like just not weird formations, but it almost reminded me of like an old Pittsburgh Steelers. Like you don't know who's in what position. You have a safety all the way up with the linebackers. You have cornerbacks with the linebackers, and then they're bumping out. Like it was, you don't know who's coming and who's not. And I like that.
And that's the benefit of our linebackers, I think.
Yeah.
Is because
helps,
they can
for sure.
can cover. They're 4 down linebackers, both of them.
But we were getting hit with those chunk running plays, and it constantly happened last year. And it was our Achilles heel to the defense was those big runs.
Yeah, and that's something the Dolphins are going to have to clean up moving forward.
Yeah, big time.
Anthony, what do you think about what Mr. Snigglefritz had to say?
I mentioned it earlier. I thought it was a pretty poor showing for Mike McDaniel in terms of play calling. Like you guys mentioned, the offense never did really get it together in this game. We had the 80-yard bomb to Tyreek, and then the rest of the game, it was a struggle for yardage. I mean, it was – and I don't understand the number of screen plays. Like, usually you want to kind of set up the screen, right? We just screened for no reason at all.
Well, I think that's just to protect the offensive line, no?
Well,
I'm sure, but Tua's already got the fastest release in the league. I mean, he can hit his guys. It's I don't know. Like, because I can't say it's bad because I'm not an expert in play calling, but it just wasn't what I would want to see from an offense that has 2 of the fastest receivers in the league and one of the fastest running backs in the league. It's like, I understand getting the ball in your playmaker's hands, but there's other ways to do that besides behind the line of scrimmage. So I wasn't too pumped up about how our offense looked, and I'm really worried about it this tomorrow. So we'll talk about that.
Yeah.
In terms of the defense, they did. Like Steve mentioned and Josh mentioned, lots of different lineups. I also noticed the number of guys coming up to the line of scrimmage, and I was like, I have no idea who's blitzing here. Trevor's head must be like spinning.
Yeah, and I think that's what helped. I'm sorry to interrupt you, but I think that's what helped Calais Campbell get in there because I think he's too busy watching everybody else, and boom, Calais is right in his face. He almost doesn't have time to get out of the pocket.
Well, we're 34 minutes into the show, guys, and we haven't even mentioned Jalen Phillips. I mean, like.
Yeah.
He single-handedly stopped several drives. And this dude's coming, what is he, fresh off of an Achilles tear late in last season, and he's already back. He's on a snap count, but he's making a difference every play. It's insane.
He was as quietly good as Tua's quietly the NFL passing leader.
Yeah, no, exactly.
Great analogy, Steve. I love it.
Yeah. But I will say
I was literally...
No, go ahead.
I was literally just going to say, Josh, that I thought the front 4 was the best. I think the linebackers have worked, the defensive backs have worked, but that front 4 is in mid-season form. Yeah.
And I will say this: there is a preconceived notion that our offensive line was bad. Now our guards were not great, right? But if you look at pressures allowed, the percentage of pressures allowed, Miami Dolphins offensive line ranks number 1 in the league at 14.6%. New Orleans is number 2 at 15.4. Pittsburgh's and Dallas are tied for 3 at 20%, and Cincinnati's at 22.9.
Well,
so I think that's skewed because of the number of screen passes.
I mean, possibly, but overall offensive line rankings, overall, not just pressures allowed. Overall, we're number 5.
That's encouraging. I know Robert Jones couldn't have contributed to that.
Oh my God!
No, he had a penalty every quarter.
Robert Jones needs to go somewhere.
He had 3.
It seemed like he had a lot. Yeah.
Last thing on the Weaver front, just really quick, because I know we want to get to game balls, is like I love what he did week 1. I want to see what adjustments he makes based on players. Is he going to stick with guys like Jordan Poyer if he keeps performing badly, or is he going to throw in Marcus May? Right? Like, I want to see what adjustments he makes throughout the season.
It's a good call out.
Yeah, absolutely.